Every week, I check on my big rock tumbler here. And for the last several months, I did it live, right here on YouTube with all of you. But I've had trouble getting a consistent time set for it, and with the holidays coming up, I just know that's going to get worse. So instead, I'm going to start pre-recording it and releasing a video, which will also give me a chance to add in some clips of what some of these rocks looked like before they went in, so that you can really see the progress happening. My goal is to get one of these videos up every week. I'll set a time for them to premiere, and then I'll do my best to hang out with anyone who can show up in the live chat. Now, let's get these rocks cleaned off. Alright, that should be good enough for now. I find that it's easiest if I get the bulk out of the way at the start, so let's go through some of the big rocks first. This is probably the largest rock in the barrel. It's some sort of quartz, smoky, maybe even has a hint of blue. It's much prettier than the exterior initially suggested. I found it along the Rivanna River over near Charlottesville. Those yellow lines that you can see are likely iron staining, which often forms along the fracture lines of a rock like this. And here's a fairly large chunk of quartzite. This is one that I cut some pieces off of to play around with, so it's got this sort of strange shape with lots of flat sides. You can see there's a fracture along here that I'm hoping will break off on its own, but if not, it's relatively close to the edge and can just wear down over the next few weeks. Speaking of hoping a fracture will break off on its own, here's a large piece of chert that I've held on to for way too long at this point. I'm going to set this one aside and just use my saw to cut along that fracture line. Next, this green rock has only been in here a week. Some of the green rocks I find are pretty soft and they break down really quickly, but this one seems to be holding up pretty well. Next, let's look at a few that are pretty similar. I should have 3 of them. Alright, so here they are, and let's look at what they each looked like before they went into the tumbler. I really don't know what these rocks are. I can't tell if the lighter color is just some sort of like matrix material that runs through the whole thing, or if maybe it's just something on the exterior and there will be more color as we get down. These are 3 that I'm definitely going to keep an eye on. I've got a handful of green rocks and these metabasalts in here, so let's take a look at them next. This dark green one is looking really promising. Just check out those swirls of green. Now this one has been in here for a few weeks. I want this corner up here to smooth out more, but I don't want to leave it in the tumbler for too long because then it'll just keep shrinking. Alright, back to one of those nice dark green rocks, but this time we have some yellow mixed in and even some hints of blue. It's still a little bit rough in some areas though. I really like this kind of pistachio color with the red mixed in. This one's really nice as well. You can even see there are some quartz pockets in there, it looks like. This one has been in here a while, and I think it's getting really close. Almost like a leopard print pattern on this one. And then here you can see that there's some uneven wearing. That's from different parts of the rock having different hardness. And then another smaller one. And a very nice green. This green looks like it maybe has some cool red lines in it. And then finally this one is mostly quartz. Here we have another chunk of quartzite. And then this is a slice of quartzite. I initially cut it for a cabochon, but decided to just throw it in the tumbler because I didn't think that it would polish well. It's holding up nicely in the tumbler though. The sides here still do have some of that stained material on them that feels a little bit porous, so it's going to go back in the tumbler. And then just some sort of off-white quartzite, I think. Not particularly pretty. Now here's a nicer piece of quartzite. This is definitely from eastern Rockingham County. I find a lot of this gray and kind of purple quartzite out that way. The backside does still need to smooth out a little bit more before it's ready to move on to the next stage. This one here is a little bit of an enigma. I think that maybe it's quartzite, although the black areas are giving me some pause. You can see some areas that haven't quite smoothed out yet, so maybe after another week or so in the tumbler, it'll be easier to tell what's really going on with this rock. And then here's a sliver that I cut from a piece of quartz from the Rivanna River. I actually have a video where I cut the rock open and then polish a few pieces of it. Some small issues up in this corner here that could probably use more time to smooth out, but overall looking really good. Here is a very nice one from Elkton. I also have a video with this rock where I cut it open and I made a cabochon from it. This one's kind of cool. So on one side we have green, but on the other side, quartz. Some imperfections along there that could use some more time in the tumbler. Now this quartz is really cool. It has some hints of green, maybe epidote, and the stains along the fracture lines actually look really cool on this one as well. Now this quartzite looks almost like it has large crystals of quartz pockets that are set in it, but it doesn't appear to run the whole way through the rock. It's a little strange. It'll be interesting to see what happens. And then another quartzite. This one has kind of a muddy color to it, and still has a little roughness along this edge. Alright, time to move on to the quartz. We have a lot of that in here, courtesy of the Rivanna River. And we're going to start with one of my favorites from this batch. Look at those pretty reds. The quartz has some excellent clarity to it as well. I can't wait to see how this one turns out. This one is more like a smoky quartz, pretty similar to that big one that we started things off with. This hasn't had nearly enough time to tumble though, so it's definitely not moving on to stage 2 yet. This little guy here is so cool. Let's zoom in and just look at those little white lines that run through it. I'm really hoping as this moves through the stages, the clearer parts become a little bit more clear to really highlight those lines. This one is another that's getting really close. There's a video of what some cabochons from the same rock looked like that you can watch as well. It's this milky quartz with some iron staining that causes not only those yellow lines, but also probably the red and purple ones as well. Here's another milky quartz piece that's much milkier. This one is mostly milky quartz with some hints of green. Hopefully those holes that you can see don't run too deep. Now this one has just a bit of everything. We've got some fairly clear milky quartz, some red iron stain lines, some yellowing that's usually also from iron staining, and even some green inside. I can't wait to see how this one turns out, but it's going to be a few more weeks before this is ready to move on. This nice, slightly yellowed quartz is making good progress. And then another one of those smokier looking quartz rocks. I love these lines that are inside it. It It's always a little bit difficult to tumble these rocks that have, the green on one side and milky quartz on the other, because the green is probably a little bit softer than that quartz. The pistachio color is typically epidote, but the darker green, I'm less sure of. Lots of holes on this rock, though, so it's not ready to move on. A very pretty quartz and epidote piece here. Hopefully that indent there smooths out quickly so that I can hurry up and get this one polished. This one, I think, is ready to move on. It's still got this little spot here, but I don't want it to shrink more than it already has. And here we have another larger piece of quartz. Now this one's interesting. It has some of that steel blue that I like, and the yellow staining, it's a little strange. It's more like spots of yellow than the normal true staining pattern that I'll see along fracture lines. I just love the white striations in quartz like this. I'm not entirely sure what those are really called, but they're super pretty. There is still this little bit up here that needs more smoothing. Check out the clarity on the bottom half of this quartz. And then more of that steel blue color. A very yellow one here. I think these are kind of pretty, but I've been told they look a little like something you'd see on Dr. Pimple Popper. Just a random piece of chert. There's not much chert in the tumbler right now, so maybe I'll do another batch of that sometime soon. The whites in the milky quartz from the Rivanna River can be so striking. It has more of this kind of shimmer to it than the truly milky quartz that I find here in Rockingham County. This one's getting awful close. It's just a regular old river rock, mostly quartz. And then another little clear quartz with red staining. I just love these. We're doing mostly smaller rocks now at this point. I have a handful of various quartz rocks here. Some are ready, some are not. These aren't quite as exciting as the larger rocks, but it's important to have a balance of rock sizes when tumbling to ensure that you're getting a good contact along the surface of every rock in the barrel. Now, this one is just such an oddball to me. It's so much like the milky quartz I find with iron staining, but for some reason, as it's tumbled, it's gotten more and more black, although I do think I see a little bit of red poking through here. This is a pretty neat little, just river rock piece of quartz. And then this one, I don't know why, but it reminds me of a piece of meat. A lot of these smaller pieces of quartz have tiny little holes on them, so I'm feeling the surface to try and figure out if they're ready to move on or if they need to stay. Those little holes can carry grit from one stage to the next, so I try really hard to avoid them. Lots of fractures on this one, but also some pretty cool, inclusions inside the quartz. And then I always love when there's some clarity mixed in with these red lines. And then this weird piece of chert. Another piece of quartz. That purple area unfortunately won't polish well. And this one has a fracture on it that I really wish would smooth out a little bit better because it's really pretty otherwise. And then just another kind of generic stained piece of quartz. Alright, now that we've finished most of the bigger rocks, it's time to start adding in new rocks. So we've got a lot of quartz from the Rivanna River area, and I'm really excited to see how some of these turn out. I think a lot of these are going to be really fun to see progress from week to week over the coming weeks and months until they're finally polished. And hopefully a lot of you will come back every week so that you can watch the progress with me. So I'm not going to be filling the barrel all the way to the top with rocks. It's important to leave about 1/3 to 1/4 of the barrel empty so that the rocks have space to move around inside the barrel. If it's packed too tight, then you're not going to get very good tumbling action. All right, our barrel's just about full now. So I'm going to start adding some grit and water and then get this thing closed up so that it can start spinning and be ready for next week. Until then, bye.